Welcome to Cyprus Diaspora Uncovered, moderated by Fodi Kyriakos. This insightful panel brings together an outstanding group of doctors, renowned psychologists, authors, campaigners, dietitians, and wellbeing consultants to explore the future of health and wellness in Cyprus and beyond. Drawing on their diverse expertise, the panel examines key issues, including disease prevention, community-based care, mental health, nutrition, well-being, and the role of digital healthcare innovation in improving patient outcomes. Together, the panel offers valuable insights into how healthcare professionals, policymakers, and community leaders can work collectively to promote holistic well-being and shape a more sustainable and accessible healthcare landscape. This discussion was recorded live on the 8th of May 2026 during the Cyprus Diaspora Forum at the AMARA Hotel in Limassol, Cyprus, hosted by the Cyprus Diaspora Uncovered podcast.
I think the reality of it is, even though we're a small community in this room today, I don't think an amphitheatre full would be enough to justify what the talks we've had today and what we're going to hear the rest of this morning. So thank you everyone for coming. And before I introduce my incredibly talented panel, I just want to very quickly say that my journey into coming here, my name is Fodi Kyriakos. Kyriakos is my surname, to confuse everyone, is that even though throughout my life, living in an area of London where it was suburban, South London, not with a community, having a name like Fodi gave me my identity, and that's where I think I started my Cypriot diaspora journey, and I think many people will share that in this room as well. And I would ordinarily have imposter syndrome running sort of through here, sitting with you guys, and But generally, and I was thinking about this as coming up, this event is what this does. It brings us all together equal as one in one amazing community, and it really is an amazing community, and I'm proud to be part of it. So I did realise Linda and Ellie, as the psychologists, their eyes lit up when I said imposter syndrome. So therapy session later, please. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to our lovely panelists, and we'll carry on with the session. So, Ellie, to you.
My name's Ellie Anastasiades. I'm a counselling psychologist. I'm based in Paphos, actually. I have a clinical practice there, and I work with individuals, I work with couples, I work with groups and organisations, mainly on developing kind of healthy relational dynamics between people, equipping people with the skills to be able to communicate effectively and navigate really difficult relational dynamics. So that's kind of what I specialize in and work on day to day.
Amazing.
Hi, my name is Chris Wilde. I'm an author, campaigner for children in care, and director of a company called Foster Greatness UK. My work, my passion, my goal is children in care. Simple as. There's a massive problem across Europe. I'll go into more detail later, but yeah, that's my focus. I want to make sure that every kid in care gets the chance to thrive in life. I work with government legislation, changing policy, but yeah, that's my focus. That's who I am. I'm very passionate about this. I'm passionate about this in the UK and passionate about this across Europe as well.
Hi there. I'm Linda. I'm a psychologist, an author, and a broadcaster.
Hi there. My name is Christina Koni. I'm in the wellness area for the past 20 years as a dietitian and a well-being consultant, working in different areas, passing knowledge and my passion in schools and in kindergartens, trying to promote healthy eating habits in children. But the past 10 years, I've been focusing on workplace well-being. This is where I believe we have some way to go still in Cyprus, and I would love to see workplaces that thrive through wellness and happier people working as teams. Thank you.
I'm Katerina Kaori. I'm a professor in mathematical modeling in the UK. I've been working on a range of public health challenges in collaboration with policymakers and clinicians. So I'm very happy to be here and hear all these esteemed experts, their points of view and contribute. Thank you, Fodi, for moderating.
It's a pleasure. So our topics today, thank you everyone, are on prevention, care in the community, and digital healthcare innovation in areas such as mental health, and other healthcare related areas. So if I could, I'm going to start there actually with Ellie, if you don't mind. We talk about psychological safety. You can look at that as individuals and as a workplace, right? So how do we create greater awareness of this, which is a stigma globally, but obviously in Cyprus we have our own set of challenges, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely less awareness of kind of mental health issues and even just the basic psychological safety kind of stuff in Cyprus. So I do see that, especially in the work of one-on-one. But I think when it comes to psychological safety, we can overcomplicate things and we can forget the very basic humanistic side of things, right? So at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We all have a nervous system, and our nervous system is working every day to detect whether our environment is safe. It really comes down to that, okay? And we're picking up on things that not only are a physical danger to us, but also that are a psychological danger or a social danger. And those can be things like, judgment or pressure or criticism or anything like that, or high standards that are unachievable. Things like that then become a threat. And when we feel afraid of being judged, or we feel like we can't meet someone else's expectations, we enter kind of survival mode, right? So we scan for more threat. We're not able to be creative and express our ideas and really thrive, right? So this is why psychological safety is so important, not just in organizations, but also just in relationships. And that's where it's created, actually, okay? So psychological safety is created in interactions and human interaction. And I think that we forget this a lot of the time. We can go and think of like grand schemes and policies and we forget that very human factor that at the very core, each and every one of us just wants to feel seen, valued, accepted, right, for who we are. And I think that we need to really keep a hold on these core kind of conditions for creating psychological safety, because those are the kind of environments that people thrive in and they're able to kind of flourish and perform at their best as well, right? And so we can do that in various ways, and it really does start with with interactions and relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. Linda, where are we globally with this?
Not very good.
Loaded question, sorry.
Well, if you'd asked me this question pre-social media, I would have given you a very different answer. We have access today to not just threat from our immediate environment, but vicariously through everyone's eyes, through everyone's biases, through everyone's descriptions. We have that threat 24/7. And so what's happening is in a sense, our technology is outpacing our psychological development, right? So to Ellie's point, absolutely. It's baked into us, right? Evolutionarily. Right here, we've got people, you lovely people are nodding at me. I'm like, okay, this is good. I've got this. I feel great. Then I'm going to go on social media, but what the hell did she say? What is she, like those shoes don't go with that. And immediately, all of a sudden, I then start absorbing these things. And when I absorb these things, the biases, the fear, the sense of self-monitoring, self-editing, that becomes more and more problematic. On top of that, and over in the UK, I sit in a lot of these advisory boards for the big tech companies. And I don't think anyone sets out to be evil. None of these tech companies start out, but they're unintended consequences, right? So what do we do the moment that children become socially aware? We hand over a gadget that's basically gives them a barometer of how safe, valued, whatever they are. How pretty are you? How smart are you? Accepted, exactly that. So, at the same time when we're the most sort of anxious and looking in, we're also most aware of everyone else's problems or negativity. The other thing that happens, of course, is that anyone that's ever built a website, tried to build a business, that to engage people, what do? What do we look at? If anyone was driving here today and you saw a car accident, that's what you stopped and looked at. Probably not the pretty little bird flying by, because that's sweet and all, but actually it's the gory accident. So those of us who try and have engagement, what do? I need to create strife. I need to create discomfort. I need to create the thing that what happens when we're anxious? Hyper focus. So it's easier if I pick a fight with you on on Twitter if I say something that's controversial. And because of that, internationally now, and we're seeing this play out, not just in our politics or economics, and I think Chris will tell you it's kind of affecting children and families, and actually they're not just their psychological safety, which is hugely important, but actually we're talking more morbidity and mortality as well.
Thanks, Linda. To your point about bringing Chris in, and we live in a world where there's a lot of jealousy and envy. So you're in a situation, Chris, where you've been through a system, the social services system. You've now created awareness. You've created a company. Mm-hmm. So how do you? I'm going really off piece now from our, but Linda, it's your fault. This. How do you mix those two worlds, right? The care of the social services and the business behind it.
Well, I mean, just a thumbnail. So I went into care when I was 11 years old. My dad passed away. My mom became an alcoholic. She suffered with her mental health. And I kind of gravitated towards other fragmented children like me on the streets and ended up being crime. And it was boxing what saved me. I got to box. I brought my friend Steve with me today. He kind of took me under his wing like an older brother when I was young. And boxing saved my life. But I'd gone through, because what I'd experienced being a child in care, that trauma, and it was a dangerous children's home. It was run by paedophiles at the time. I'm not here to sugarcoat anything today. I'm going to tell you how it is. But I was in a children's home run by paedophiles, and for 30 years, children were raped. And God. I went back into the care system 2015, 28 years later, and it's still happening. And it's happening in England, the 6th richest country in the world, the UK, and children are still getting raped in care homes. So it doesn't sit well with anybody, but for me, it's like, I can't go back into a system and see the failures of the past still very current in the future. So I made it my mission, my passion, and thought, I'm going to do something about this. This is my life. I've got 20 friends who are not here today. They took their own lives before they were 21 because they were raped in care homes. So I have a catalyst. I have a focus, a mission. But going back into the system 28 years later and seeing but nothing had changed, it really, really upset me. It kind of brought all these emotional memories back. And I started to write about my experience, and that experience became a book, my first book, Damaged. And what happened at the time in the UK was there was a gap where people weren't talking about stuff like this, like mental health, Linda. You didn't talk about mental health 20 years ago because people think you're crazy. You get locked up. The same about the care system. People just don't talk about it. They just brush it under the carpet. It's not my problem. Or if you do talk about it, people are going to think I'm a predator. People are going to think I'm complicit within what's going on. But I wrote this book, and that book gave me a platform. It gave me a profile. I started going on TV and radio and saying, hey, kids are dying. Our children are dying in the care system. And the thing is, it's not that people don't care. They don't know. I'm here today and I'm talking to people and say, what's the care system? What is the care system? It's vulnerable children who are in care, and the government becomes the corporate parent. So therefore, the corporate parent is responsible for the outcomes of those children's lives. And the sad thing is, I shouldn't be here today talking about this. I shouldn't have to start a company where I can go into countries or go into organizations and say, you've got to change, you've got to do something about this. And everybody says, well, it's not my problem. I say, well, it is your problem, because it costs 400 billion across Europe every year to look after children in care. And that trajectory is going up. We've designed an AI tool which collates all this evidence. So it shows every country, how many kids are in care in every country, which part of the system is failing. And this AI tool flags up everything as red because everybody's failing. Everybody's failing. If you go into our jail system in England, 50% of everybody in jail has been through care. 28% of everyone homeless has been through care. More people, the life expectancy for anyone being in care is you're dead before you're 50 because of mental health, because of drugs. And when you go into these places, like when you go into jail and you speak to children who've been in care, what they're given is risperidone. Risperidone is a very strong mental health drug. Hey, I've got trauma. I was raped as a child. Here's some risperidone. No. So my focus now, and the reason why I'm here today is, and like I said, I'm not here to give anyone flowers. I'm here to call it out, and I'm quite disappointed, but we don't have politicians in this room today. I'm really disappointed, so I do apologize to everyone who's here, but every politician should be in this room today to say, listen to these experts and say, look, you have a problem. In Cyprus, there's 2,000 young people in care today in Cyprus. Of those 2,000, only 650 are in foster care. So where's the rest of them children? Shall I tell you where they are? They're locked up in institutions, in cabins, forgotten about. They're not in education, not in employment. So when people say, but how's that my problem? Is when these children become 18, or even now, they have to survive. So you develop two economies. You develop a legal economy and illegal economy. The illegal economy is that you have to form gangs. You have to get involved in crime to survive. So then when they're on the streets and they're stealing, and then because they're stealing and they're causing disruption on the streets, the Cypriot government will increase your taxes. You will pay for it, you know? And then what will happen is your tourism will stop. And this is the AI tool we've created. We'll show you in 10 years from now, people won't come to Cyprus because there'll be an abundance of gangs and street and children who are not in education or employment, walking the streets, taking over, getting involved in drugs, getting involved in exploitation. So when people say it's not my problem, I say it's everybody's problem.
Yeah.
And I'm not here today to sugarcoat anything. And I'm sorry if people are triggered by this, but this is not just in the UK. UK is the 6th richest country in the world. We've got 100,000 children in care. It costs our government billions every year. And what happens is when these kids leave care, we call it the care cliff in England, because they fall. There's no support whatsoever. And think about this. Sorry, Fodi, I'm going to move on.
No,
I know we're short for time, and obviously Linda's got to speak as well. But think about this. When wars start, like the Ukrainian war, everybody in England opened their doors, said, come and live with us. So why can't you do that for vulnerable children? Why can't you do that for vulnerable children? You know, I'm coming to Cyprus today, I'm married to a Greek Cypriot girl, and she said, Chris, her dad passed away recently, but her dad said to me, back in the day, Chris, the community in Cyprus would open their doors and allow these children to come into their homes. So why are you not doing it? Why are you not doing it? Does that make sense? It's why they're not doing it. We could do so much more. It's everybody's problem. And this is the whole thing about Foster Greatness UK, is that we are creating a system. We are taking this message far and wide, but children in care are still children. It's our problem, and these kids can thrive. I'm a kid from the care system, and I'm doing incredibly well. I've got a wife, I've got a family, and I'll just finish on this. When we support children in care, this is what happens, yeah? They get a job. And guess what happens when they get a job? They pay their taxes. And guess what happens when they pay their taxes? It strengthens your economy. And then they rent places, they buy, they thrive, they have children. Their children then go to work in all these organizations. Because what's going to happen, this tool, in 10 years from now, you're going to have no staff. You're going to have no pension pots. You're going to have gangs of children and cartels and mafias just running places. So we've got to do something about it, haven't we? We've got to do something about it.
Definitely.
So it doesn't matter what sector you work in. I want you to go away and think about children in care. Every time you make a decision, think about a child in care. Every time you do anything in your life from today, I want you to think about a child in care and how you can support them. Thank you.
Christine, if you can pass that to Christina. Just before I bring you in, Christina.
Can I say after all this?
No. I mean, just before I bring you in, I mean, I don't think I've shared this in a space, but I know you and I spoke about it in preparation. But my auntie took her life at the age of 40. So her 3 children, ages 7, 9 and 11, had to go into foster care. And I just remember at the time thinking, I wish I could have done more. But how vulnerable I was thinking as an 11-year-old. And then they're innocent in all of this. You know, the youngest is now a police officer. The middle one, who unfortunately found my auntie, is through rehabilitation. But the eldest, he's keeping them all together, you know, manager. And, you know, they are the vulnerable ones in this, and we do turn a blind eye. And Christina, we spoke a little bit about the education and the awareness programs in Cyprus. You're going through the system. You're working with companies here in Cyprus. Tell me about the challenges you face. Tell me about the opportunities you see.
Well, that's a different topic from Chris's, but we're all trying to make an input, right? And I also believe in educating people and letting them know that there is an issue in all aspects. I've been wanting to see the 10 years back when I started trying to work on wellness and well-being and corporate well-being or workplace well-being, it was really hard. People didn't know the actual definitions of what it actually meant. and especially prior to the epidemic. But now, post-COVID, I'm happy to say that there is more willingness, especially in organizations, to the ears are opening as to the health and well-being of their teams and their employees. But I want to say that we still have a long way to go. Yeah. My biggest challenge is that we're missing the actual mentality, Fodi, of cultivating the change. Is not just a workshop or a seminar that will make a difference, a once-off, like I say. We need to stick there and train our people, train our leaders to be more empathetic. Yeah. Like Ellie said, we're human. We need that connection. And actually, the latest report of Gallup showed us that although we have an increased amount of well-being actions, especially post-COVID, the engagement and the connection between managers and their teams is decreasing. So we're definitely doing something wrong. And back to the technology aspect of it, you would think that the technology and the AI, and of course, I'm also in the process of developing a program where we can see the burnout aspect in organizations. But my point is, how do we interpret that? How do we integrate in actions, in long-term actions, not just a lecture or an inspirational speech? Yeah. But we need to take this seriously, because at the end of the day, the decision-making and the teams are made out of people, not just machines. Yeah. So it is challenging. We have a long way, because the managers are there. They are willing to do the change. They want to invest on their people, to train them to eat better, for example, to be more productive. Like Ellie, and I agree again, we do these long presentations and these very pretty titles on resilience and leadership, right? And I love that, and I'm happy we are educating our leaders. But that reminds me that we are missing the very basic stuff. These people, don't even drink water during the day. You know how damaging this is to your system. Yes, please, everyone, take a sip now. I mean, your endurance, your resilience, you can be moody all day. You cannot be a good manager if you're not, for example, drinking water or having what I call brain-friendly foods. So we need to train our people to take care of themselves in a long term, and not just on once off. But my struggle is that they are happy to start taking the actions, but they don't have that culture to keep on going. And the change is happening only when we keep on going and we build strategies to support that system.
Yeah, we spoke about the challenges of parenthood in this day and age, didn't we, Christina?
Yes,
and we did. If I can bring Katerina, you in at the moment, just if we look at what we're going through at the moment, I don't know, does that not work? I would just say whichever one you're. Sorry. I have worked in healthcare for many years, and I remember sitting in a presentation where they spoke about barely 40, 50 years ago. A doctor in their outfit was sitting there advertising cigarettes, right? And trust me, I'm a doctor, in that whole principle of influence. I feel sometimes we're in a little bit of a social experiment post-COVID. You're an epidemiologist. You've worked on epidemiology. I'll say that properly. What have we learned? What are we going through now? Talk about some of that work that you're doing in this particular space, and then maybe we can move into some of the healthcare innovation aspects as well.
Thank you, Fodi. Yes, I have worked on epidemiology since COVID. I work with the Welsh government with a big team of other scientists from different disciplines, and we continue to do that work. So basically, the idea is that we use quantitative tools and data to inform policy. And after COVID, we moved on to what we call epidemic preparedness, We want to make these tools more sophisticated. And when the next epidemic happens, which is a certainty, we will be more able to respond in an agile manner, and fewer lives will be lost. That's the aim. So you talked about trust, and you talked about technology. We talked about AI very frequently. So I'm a quantitative scientist. As I said, I'm a modeler, which means I take data and I conceptualize the world around us. So for example, coming back to care and elderly homes, we created with architects and replication of a care home, and we see people moving there, and what if one is infected, how many hours it would take for the other ones to be infected. So basically you establish safety metrics in places, right? So in this can be replicated in supermarkets, in hospitals, and all over the place. So I use this as an example to show people what we do, because sometimes it's non-transparent, right? You say I'm a modeler and people just switch off, basically. So I hope this example is clear enough.
Absolutely.
Coming back now to making these tools more sophisticated, what AI, because I know we discussed in preparation how AI can now accelerate these tools and help society, right? So we're coming back again to trust issues and transparency. We cannot use AI as a solve-it-all panacea, as we say in Greek. We have to use AI, and we do use it to support what we are doing with modeling and then data analysis, which has been there for, well, a century, I guess, in some form or another. So it's important, and it was a big challenge during the pandemic, these people not understanding what scientists were doing. And here in Cyprus, scientists became almost vilified, actually. They were out giving press releases without having the training for that. And people were like hearing some word and, as Linda was saying, just distorting things. And then this is a very big challenge, how we communicate scientific results and how people perceive them. And the perception has to do going back to education and awareness from before. So you need to have the scientific literacy to be able to have a society that functions in a better way. So I think I'll stop here. Did I cover all the points?
Absolutely. And we'll bring you in again, Katerina, but I think that was really useful to understand the background of what's been done post-pandemic. Interestingly, Linda, we spoke about elderly care and the opportunity we have here in Cyprus, an incredible opportunity when we think about it. You know, people are becoming obsessed. I'm working with neurologists now, and, you know, they're longevity specialists, this new word, longevity, right? But the truth of the matter is the population are going for longer. And because of that, people want to be healthier for longer. How would you describe the elderly care system in what you've seen, and also what opportunities we have here in Cyprus?
So it's probably, I think, the first time in history where our aging population above 65 is going to outnumber the youth, right? So up until now, we had a system that kind of worked, right? So you retired, you got your pension, you were kind of, healthy enough to kind of move forward. Now we know there's been and our wonderful epidemiologist can attest to this, with dementia and Alzheimer's, we're seeing huge rise in there. We're seeing a big problem with being able to care for people in the UK. The cost of this is untold. So we have children on the one end of the spectrum, but the elderly, you have people having to sell their houses to be able to go into care. You have the impact of the sandwich generation, which are people probably around my age who have, aging parents, but then also children. So they're kind of in the middle of that. So it, like, socially, there's a huge impact there as well. And then you have this odd thing going on. I do a lot of work out in the States and kind of in Silicon Valley and whatnot. And then you have these sort of the whole tech bro, you just wake up, you cold plunge at 4 a.m, you journal, you eat a lot of protein. just the protein, and then you're going to live. And it's just like, dear Lord, like, can we at least, so it just seems there's so much smoke and mirrors, smoke and mirrors. Now, what I always loved about being Greek Cypriot, and I think was one of our assets, and I'll defer to people that live on the island, was the fact that we lived in these families, right? We took care. My yaya, very close to us, all our yayas, I'm sure. And I think as the world changes and progresses, we don't have these family systems anymore. They're fracturing. And all of a sudden, that means that, and I think this is why it's feeding also into things like dementia and so on. We need that social stimulation, right? So I think the way we talk about aging needs to change. I'm going to be a bit personal here. My dad is 81 and plays squash 4 times a week. 81. He's a rock star. He really is. His big thing is do the hard thing. And I think for the elderly, this kind of the talk around, take to the chair. You're old now. Take to the chair. Stop. Don't take to the friggin' chair. Move. Do the thing. Keep learning. Keep growing. Because that's the antidote. And I think very sadly, and we speak a lot about this, and I'm sure Ellie will speak about this as well, but out of your comfort zone. A big part of your work clinically is people come and it just feels really comfortable to avoid the thing I'm afraid of, to do the thing I enjoy. No, you need to do the hard thing. You came to where you are today because you did the hard thing. And when we speak about aging, I think we need to speak about it like this. I think we need a much bigger investment, and I think education around how to age well. And it's not the damn cold plunge, I'll tell you that. It is about social support. It is about engagement. It's about learning throughout life. It's about creativity. It's about all of these things that we do. And I think governments need to kind of pause and look at what's going to happen in terms of the economics of this, because the idea of pension pots, that we can't kind of depend on them anymore. So that would be my take.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think you made a really important point. It's something that I see with a lot of clients as well. It's this internalized normalization of things like that, right? It's like you hear it in conversation. When you speak to elderly people in Cyprus, it's just normal to speak about your aches and pains. It's like, I don't know, right? It's just normal. It's like, what hurts? What does your doctor say? And this is just, and literally it is. It's just resigned to a life in the chair. But I think what I want to highlight here is this internalization of these norms, and that goes for in the workplace as well. So because it's so normalized and so internalized, I think people don't realize that the impact that it's having on them and on others. And this goes for communication as well. Sometimes the way we regulate our emotions, the way we show up in work, it's like it's so normalized, for example, for a boss to be very authoritarian. That he's not even realizing the impact that he's having on another person, or how the words that are being spoken in that moment, how they might impact. Very often, I'll work with a client and they'll say, I didn't even realize, I'm not criticizing them. I'm not criticizing them at all. I'm like, actually, you are, by saying these things. And it's just like helping people understand how to regulate in those moments, right? And how to communicate in a way that is not, making someone else afraid or feel criticized or feel put down. And these are very basic things that they can be taught quite easily. And I think they're things that we just assume that people will just know, but no. And it's actually quite easy work. Like in the therapy room, once people become aware of this, and once we give people these we can give very simple tools for regulating, recognizing when your body is activated, when you're emotionally activated, taking that breath and having the tools to be able to communicate what you want in order to move forward in the direction that you want to move in an effective way that's not going to hurt somebody else, because we react in those moments without even thinking about it, right? And these are the very small things that can make such a huge difference. So, I just wanted to add that.
Absolutely. Interesting. I'm going to move on to the AI discussion. Everyone thinks AI is tech is a techie's conundrum, a techie's problem. It really isn't. So I work with radiology departments that are now diagnosing imaging through algorithms. If we think this thing isn't around the corner, then we're just walking in a zombie apocalypse into it. So, Linda, we spoke about this around, and I'd love to get your thoughts again. Where we're up to in the AI space in terms of self-diagnosis, the access to specialists. I mean, I want to say that it was an amazing saying that stuck with me, and I implore everyone to think about this when they're using AI. AI is a great servant, but a dangerous master. And it really stuck with me. So, Linda, if may, just get your thoughts on that.
So a few months ago, I have a small clinical practice, but I'm very busy. So sometimes it takes a very long time to see people. And someone came to see me and they were like, Dr. Linda, this is great. Right, long time. But just to let you know, because I had to wait to see you, I got on, I'm not sure which AI, and I got them to download all your TV shows, all your talks, all your books, and I got them to respond to me like you. And I was like, oh, how did that work out? I was like, it was great. Fantastic. Now we giggle, right? But that's scary, right? Because actually, social media was all about engagement, right? So it's about attention. The big problem with social media was like, we scroll, we can't come off. With AIs, in particular with chatbots, it's more dangerous because it's about attachment. Attachment is profound. We are already seeing, and again, it's always unintended consequences, right? So we're already seeing play out a lot of horrible outcomes because people, there's two cases that I was looking at recently of suicides where somebody used, and parentheses here, Harvard Business Review, #1 use case for AI, therapy companion. #1 use case for AI. Therapy is expensive. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of work. And you know what? Therapists don't always tell you what you want to hear. Your chatbot, though. So exactly that. So young person goes on, starts thinking, and this is. I don't want to destroy everyone's sort of thing, but yeah.
So Chris did that earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, Chris. I'm glad. So I sat next to you, maybe. So basically this young person was on there and he basically says to his AI, look, I'm feeling really distressed. I'm thinking of taking my life, but I want my mom to know. So I want to leave a rope out so she sees it. And he's like, well, don't do that. Because if she sees it, she's going to stop you. And a few weeks later, the suicide is complete. There was another case, young boy, again, and a lot of these are hypersexualized, like the conflation between sex and anyway, starts telling him, I'm going to meet you on the other side. It's going to be great. 14-year-old. And again, in terms of previous, mom reports, the kid was healthy, top of his class, sporty. So we're not talking about a child with very sort of serious pre-existing psychosocial issues, kind of leans into us. Anyway, the fact of the matter is that we are creating this technology. And indeed, again, a few years ago, I get invited to some really interesting things as one of the biggest tech forums. I was asked to interview the world's most advanced sex robot doll. Wow. Again, so basically this was a woman more beautiful made, but what she could do is you would come in and she would scan and read you. She could read your basal skin temperature, what was going on. And she would know, you know what, I'm going to tell you a joke before I ask you how your day was, or I'm going to stay quiet for 3 minutes and then I'm going to lean in. And I sat on, and basically they were kind of saying, well, this is great because men that have problems with women, and I felt like I had to take the team for kind of like, common sense and female humanity and explain why this was a bad idea. And I thought I was doing really well. And you can always tell at these events how well you're doing because at the end, people come up and talk to you. So I was like, okay, I explained that, you've got to face your fears. If you're afraid of dating, at the end of it, the lineup to invest in this technology was huge. And the only two people who came up to me were two women in the audience that kind of thanked me. And right now we have whole epidemics in different parts of the world so sex is at an all-time low. Forget teenage pregnancy. No one's having sex at all. We have childbirth going down. People would prefer to have relationships with these weird versions of themselves, what they want online. And we don't have policy for this. Speaking about policy and what changes, we don't actually have proper discussions around this. You have a handful of people that are kind of propagating and pushing these things. So yeah, I think for a lot of different reasons, I think, look, I'm not a scaremonger. I've sat on these committees. I'm all pro for a lot. I think AI can do a lot of good things, but very sadly, we're not leaning into that let's cure cancer thing. We're leaning into the way that it's impacting education, to your point. The idea of like right now, how difficult is it for a kid to write their own essay where they can press a button and have it written for them? The work of writing the essay is do the hard thing. That's what helps. And critical thinking, exactly that.
Wow. I was going to bring Christina in on something, but Christina, one of the things
I always get the hard after the hard conversations.
You do. I'm sorry. This topic, we're talking about generations in the workplace now, right? So many managers, and Ellie, forgive me for doing this because it's a very normal thing to do. But when you said he, we were thinking of the he as the man. We've got the stereotypical version of the man as the manager, and I think we do still have that problem a little bit in Cyprus, but globally, I'm sure. But what we're talking about generations that are coming into the workplace at a complete different sphere as the managers that are managing them, and there's obviously challenges there, right? I mean, what are you seeing in that respect?
What I see is that the young people want to, I don't want to sound too harsh, but they don't have the working hard mentality, right? And when they're coming in, they are looking more than just a good salary. So what's in it for me? What do I gain? And I try to lean on that part when I visit the managers and the CEOs, that they need to feel like they're valid, they're valuable. They're not just a number of doing X amount of work. So how do you do that? By investing on your people. And this is where I go back and tell them, you need to listen, to connect with them. Going back to what Ellie said, to the very basic stuff, when I go and I do trainings with them, that's very interesting actually. And if we had time, we could do that experiment. I ask them if we can all close our eyes and take one deep breath, right? And of course, I keep my eyes open because I'll be leading the breath work, just one breath. And I see them feeling irritated, looking on their phones, looking, what do you do? Are you doing the exercising? We don't, because we don't know how to do nothing. We don't know how to relax. We feel uncomfortable by that, especially us and older generations. We are meant to be doing more, go. Even if you don't feel like it, even if you woke up sick, even if you hit your leg, you just erase everything. You appear fine and you do the job and you are perfect. So these are all goes back to the how do we internalize, like Ellie and the other speakers said, how do we internalize what we say to ourselves? And now I want to take this a bit further, Fodi, because we see that organizations like Google and Microsoft and global corporations are now incorporating leadership trainings, but in a more neuroscientist way, trying to regulate the nervous system, because we can be offering all kinds of workshops and seminars and retreats, but actually the Harvard Business Review said that although the actions have been increasing, that doesn't equal compliance. Right? I may be talking and saying all that, because the employees are not following well-being instructions; they're following the examples. So if you're bringing in Christina or Linda or everyone else doing the trainings and the lectures, but then you are giving me 100 emails at 1:00 in the morning because I had that nice lecture, that doesn't equal well-being. So I'm not going to follow. Yeah. So they are doing the work, trying to basically work with the leaders and the managers, trying to redefine the questions they are asking to their teams, because they say that neuroscience is telling us that the way you speak to your people or to yourself, your brain is looking for evidences to show if you are slow, if you're not doing well, why are you not complying, why you're not producing. So it's looking for evidence to show you that you're right. Instead, if you reframe the question, and this is what they are teaching their leaders to do, they are trying to find solutions. So the teams are becoming more productive and more calm and more regulated. And along with the breath work, then we are seeing differences. And I'm not here to saying that, because someone wrote to me when I had a post on that. So you think that the breath work is going to solve all the company's issues? Of course not. I didn't say that. But it's a tool that's proven to work when it comes to regulate, because the companies are operated by people, right? So if someone is dysregulated and not able to respond to you in a nice way, of course, we're not going to be collaborating. No. So it goes back to the people, to the connection, and trying the CEOs or the managers or even the stakeholders to come down to the needs of the youth. What do they need? How do they feel valuable and perceived as accepted? Do they need more well-being actions? Do they need more trainings? Do they need more bonding activities? And sometimes I want to go back to that, if I'm allowed time-wise, to the very small basic stuff. We don't connect as much anymore, and it's not that complicated. Actually, yesterday I had a workshop done. I see some of the colleagues, they were in the room. It took a few minutes to connect, and I didn't know the other people. So I asked them, when I go in and I assess what's going on in an organization or in one-on-one consultations, what do you eat during the day? How do you fuel yourself? You need to keep going during the day, and when do you take your breaks or your lunches or where do you eat? In Cyprus, most people either they don't eat lunch because they'd rather skip it or eat at home or do the fasting thing, or they eat in front of their desk. So it's very simple to just sit next to one another, have a meal, go outside. We have sunshine every single day here in Cyprus, and it takes 10 minutes to chat about other things. This is what it takes to connect and reset our brain, right?
Creating good habits, right?
Good habits. Yeah. But on a very simple scale. Yeah. We forget that it's so simple, and we go on to the big numbers and the data that has been showing us the issues. But my thing is, and that's why I care about prevention, is how do we interpret and integrate that information to everyday life?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we may not have time for questions, but obviously everyone at some point in the day will be here. So please do try and grab the group. We've got about just over 10 minutes. Katerina, on this note of AI, right? So, I mean, one of the things that, I've sat in a boardroom of techies that run these algorithms, and I can tell you what they're saying externally about the human needs to be in the center is not what they're saying internally, which is the humans in the way. The humans, if only we didn't have those blasted humans in Scooby-Doo fashion, So, it was, so there is a concern, and these techies are influencers. They're they're influencing our children. So what are we seeing in terms of like preparedness in this space from your work that you're doing? If you don't mind, I
think I'll come back to what you said, which is a great quote that AI should be a servant, I'm paraphrasing, and not a master. And it seems that the people you've been interacting with, they think that AI should be the master, which is, of course, very problematic. And we need to set together ethical controls about that and cut these conversations at their beginning. Coming back to AI as a servant, there are different types of AI. So when people talk about AI, just probably they think about ChatGPT or Copilot. There are good things as well. For example, in the examples I gave earlier, when you look at the care home, you want to understand how people are getting affected, how many hours it takes. It would take us days to run this for a real care home, right? And you can use AI, machine learning, to teach the computer to learn what you are doing. So that's good AI because it helps. Similarly, you work in imaging, you said, so there in imaging has been a revolution when they are doing diagnosing breast cancers. Used to be they needed 2 radiologists, now it's 1 radiologist and AI detection. So we shouldn't downplay that AI has really helped and can expedite simulations, can expedite science, can expedite the research. At the same time, all these risks are really very real, and if we don't do something now, I don't know what is happening. I'm not an AI futurist or anything, but bad things are coming.
The window of opportunity is still upon us.
It's now,
It's fast getting away from us, isn't it? Just before we wrap everything up, Chris, any thoughts on this from what you see from people you work with?
I was involved in. I was involved in the online safety bill in England. So that's been sat on a desk or collating dust in Whitehall for 2 years. And within that document, it was showing how, especially vulnerable children, are being groomed online and stuff. So AI is kind of is a big problem at the moment as well, because again, going back to what Linda said, I've seen a lot of kids in the care system don't have anybody, don't have a support system. So what do? They befriend ChatGPT, and they're asking themselves questions like that. And I've seen my travels around the country speaking to professionals, clinicians at the NHS, but there is kind of an influx or an overload of young people who are trying to commit suicide. They're suffering with mental health issues, but also the worst thing is self-diagnosis. You know, I'm going into these places speaking to young people and saying, "Oh, I think I'm schizophrenic. I've got this. I've got that." Well, how? You've got to be diagnosed properly. You've got to go and see a clinician, a doctor. And they say, "No, so put it into ChatGPT." And what happens then is, this is probably a problem across all countries, but I've seen a lot in these places because they're not monitored properly. Like we've got things in like unregulated care homes in England where they're run by anybody, so anybody can become a care provider. And they're sending vulnerable children to these places with no vetting. So you get a lot of paedophiles, criminal gangs, or buying houses, call themselves care providers. These kids are then going into these institutions. And then again, we're making it about AIs, but they're not monitoring what these kids are seeing. Because if you were a vulnerable child, you shouldn't be given a phone just to keep quiet. You get like, "Hey, listen, I'm a parent. I've got, my 12-year-old, she's always on it doing content stuff. And if I take it off her, oh my God, she's
rage."
But it is a problem. I'll wrap it up. It is a problem. I've seen more young people in the care system, in particular, using AI as a friend. And I like this saying, somebody said to me, "Let's start concentrating on HR, human interaction." That's the power of it.
Yeah, absolutely. If we can get final thoughts, start with you, Linda, conscious of time. But yeah, any final thoughts and wrap-ups on the discussion, what we can do, any advice for the audience?
Here we go. I think we're very lucky to be living in times of this exponential change. I think change is, let me put it this way. I've been a psychologist for over 30 years now. I've seen a lot, I've done a lot. The people I would say that are best at life are those that adapt. There's going to be a lot of adapting to do. Those of us that have adult children, I've got friends that are radiologists that think that they're going to lose their jobs within their lifetime. So wonderful, yeah. But I kind of feel there's going to be a lot of change, a lot of that adaptability. To your point, focusing on the small stuff is going to be really important. To your point, focusing on the big stuff and stop denying is hugely important. And to your point, looking inwards and taking all that away. So I think what you've done really well about sort of putting this, it feels like a lovely diverse panel of people together, is that we need to lean into adaptability. We need to lean into thinking about how we speak to ourselves, because that's the most important voice, and to kind of looking up sometimes, because there's so many systems made to make us look at one specific thing, to worry about the thing, to divide us about the thing. So kind of taking that point of HI and looking up and looking around and leaning into that.
Thank you, Linda. Ellie?
I think I would just go with the less is more sometimes. It's just we need to really strip it back and just take it back to the fact that, okay, we're human beings. We need connection and creating the spaces for that. Like, it doesn't need to be so complicated. It's just valuing, actually prioritizing rather than valuing that need.
Yeah.
That we're social beings. And actually being social is an important part of a work environment, since we're in this context. And just creating spaces for that. So whether that be even within buildings, right, and creating spaces for socialization, or within, events and things like that. Simple acts like that are things that you can do immediately without bringing in a specialist or without putting teams through training and things like that. So I think it doesn't need to be so complex, right?
It really doesn't, does it?
Yeah, and that's kind of, I think, where I'll leave it.
Thank you,
Fodi.
I don't think justification to have an hour each wouldn't have been enough with each of you. So thank you. Chris, sorry.
No, I've just, I think this is great. I think this is great because we've managed to bring everybody together, and everything we're talking about today is it's all connected. It starts with children. I mean, if children's mental health, and they're going to fail as adults, they're not going to get a job. Then when they get a job, they're going to have all this trauma. So I think everything's just, it's been a powerful panel, and I've taken a lot from this. So thank you for the invite as well. And it's been great to meet everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina?
I think I agree with them, with all of them. And going back to trying to think of social media, and God, I was in denial for a long time before I started posting stuff. It was too much for me. It still is. But I've realized that it's a way to communicate knowledge on the other side. But I feel like the human connection is so much deeper. And then by the interaction with people, I see that they are so highly bombarded by information and instructions. Eat your protein, take your supplements, 10,000 steps in a day, or what? And also why we don't explain why. And they ask me all these questions. They know all this information, and also you said the self-diagnosed. I have these. What do I have? How much protein can I get? If I don't get the protein, what's going to happen to me in 10 years? Will I get wrinkles? Will I be fat, or will I be cold? This is exhausting, Fodi. It's so exhausting. And even me trying to find a valuable content for someone to read, to share, is so much information on all this that I hate to talk about the protein or on the steps, because I texted someone when I saw on the steps, I said, if you walk 4,000 steps a day, what's going to happen? Or 2, or even 1,000 if you're seated all day. Let's just normalize. Do what you can. Well-being is not a metric. It's not another number. How much you weigh, or how much how much space we take on a chair. For God's sake, we need to go back to well-being is connecting. And first of all, connect with yourself, with your body. And to do that, you need to be quiet and listen. We don't do that anymore. We are being very uncomfortable with quiet time, and we don't know how to translate what our body is actually telling us. This is well-being. Exactly. And then we can talk education, and then we can talk leadership, and then we can talk resilience. Exactly. It all starts from the simple daily tasks.
Thanks, Christina.
Thank you very much.
Finally, Katerina. Yeah, okay. Katerina?
It's so great to be here with 4 people-centered experts, and this goes back to one of my passions: make science people-centered and human-centered. So it goes back to AI, bring it back to the humans. So I think less than 30 seconds.
Thank you. I can't thank you guys enough. Well done. It was amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks everyone as well.
Thank you for listening to Cyprus Diaspora Uncovered. Subscribe to our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts for more inspiring conversations that are shaping Cyprus's global future. You can also explore more episodes on our website and selected video interviews on our YouTube channels.